All right, we be live. Hey everyone, Pat Topolinski.
Frankie Foreman. It's Friday, which means we are live in the shop here to talk about, well, we're going to talk about our latest project that we're working on, which definitely did not start out like this. This is actually our Junkyard 5.3. It's made a big transformation. We'll get to that in a minute. We're going to do that. We're going to take comments, and we're going to answer some comments, and probably just talk about what's going on in the shop.
I want to know if you missed us because we weren't here last time.
Yeah, but we were busy. We're working on engines and
we
stuff.
Have
We got all
stuff to
kinds
do.
of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's one of the things that people have to realize is we are a functioning shop, right?
Yeah.
So we are actually working, and I've said it before. The majority of the stuff that we do is off camera. So when we're doing engines and stuff, our time is used well.
Yeah, and we're always trying to make content for you guys. So that's our main goal here, is to make good content for you. We always get questions about how long that takes. It does take quite a bit of time to build and assemble and dyno fully functional engines. So, like this week, I know we don't have a new episode dropping, but we do have a brand new Detroit Muscle episode that is live right now. It's already up, so make sure you go check that out on the PowerNation YouTube page. And last week, I believe there was a Dirt and Trails episode.
Yeah,
that
shout
dropped.
out to the Dirt and Trails guys. Go check their stuff out. They're doing some really cool stuff down there. So make sure you give them a look and give them a like and give them a follow, and just keep looking at what they're doing because they're going to do some really neat stuff.
Yeah, PowerNation YouTube and Dirt and Trails YouTube. And then obviously if you're here, you're probably either on the PowerNation or the Engine Power YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to all three of those because you'll get new content drops, all kinds of cool stuff like that.
We're biased, but we like that one the best.
Yeah. All right, so I think we have some questions. We're going to go through some questions real quick. These are questions that you guys have asked us very recently. So if you've commented any questions, well, this one of these might be yours. We're going to go through and answer these. Then we'll talk a little bit about the current status of this project and what we got going on in the shop. While we're doing that, if you guys have any questions about this project, future projects, things you want to see, or any tech, make sure you put them in the comments of this live stream, so we will check those out at the end as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you're gonna have to read this. I can't see any of them.
Man, I can barely read these. I might have to get glasses. All right, here we go. From David Robertson, 4538. He said, I love watching the channel. One thing I have not seen is you two building an LT1. I have a 2016 Corvette C7 Z51. I want to see what I can do to build it for a sleeper powerhouse. So I assume he's talking about the later LT1s, which, yeah, we really haven't delved into the LT stuff as much, or really at all. I mean, we keep up on it, but we haven't built one here on the show.
Yeah, they're nothing wrong. It's a great platform. It's just, we do things by application and we do things by necessity, right? So we still do stuff for our own content, but that particular engine, it's a bit more involved in both building and testing one, and for an application, that's the same thing goes. So we haven't delved into that because of, well, we haven't really had an application for that, but that's always something that's on the table. Anything that we have for engines around here is something that we throw a lot of stuff at the wall, and sometimes some of it sticks, sometimes some of it doesn't, but eventually we get to everything. So we're going to look for that in the future, and we just have to have the right things fall into place.
Yeah, and quite honestly, they've become more and more popular, more and more prevalent as more trucks and things like that are wrecked and things like that. But price-wise, they are still quite expensive compared to an LS. So for most people, an LS is still going to be the cost-effective option, and LT is, I think, definitely a little bit cooler, and there's definitely more power potential there with cylinder head technology, even block technology. That stuff is really, really good. But that is something to think about as well as far as costs. Is if you're going to go try and buy a used engine, it is going to be significantly more, especially if you're talking about like one of the supercharged options or something like that. So, all right, next one. Let's see. Here's a good one from Backyard Racing. It's a good tech question. Did you guys use bullnose ARP head studs kit or the regular ones and just back them off after we ran them down with an impact? This is on the 509 cubic inch W series that we just finished up. This is a great question because if you notice, like the main studs do have a bullnose. Those are designed for that block, and they have basically a little part of the stud that's not threaded that makes sure that it can go all the way down into the threaded hole, but where the threads end on the stud is not being crushed down into basically the flat surface at the top of the threads. For the head studs, they don't have that, but what we do is if we run them down with an impact, we will just gently screw them down with the impact, and then we will, by hand, we'll make sure that the solid portion of the stud body is not contacting the deck. We actually usually either put it just like finger tight, or we'll back it off a little bit. That way when you go and torque that stud, if it does try to twist and rotate the stud at all, it's not trying to drive the unthreaded portion into the deck and potentially tightening it up at the top.
Yeah, there are studs that are definitely made specifically for running down to a specific pound feet, or they'll have something in the bottom so it torques up against it and actually loads the threads that are in the bottom side of it, which in that case would be the block or whatever. But in this case, that was a great explanation.
Yeah.
Nice job.
All right, you're going to take this next one. Who makes our degree wheel? That is a really popular one.
That is, and it's funny because everyone that sees our degree wheel, this one is a custom one, and there's several different types of degree wheels on the market. This is a really nice one that was custom made. This thing's probably 15, 17 years old at this point. Really nice one. The big thing on degree wheels is clarity of the markings, and you can see as the increments are spaced a little bit more apart, it's because of the diameter of the wheel. The bigger the wheel, the more accurate it can be because it's easier to make those fine adjustments. This is a great wheel right here as well.
Yeah, but this is an off-the-shelf wheel too that you can get and use.
Yeah, but depending on, you've seen the smaller ones. There's degree wheels down in the 7-8 inch range. There's nothing wrong with that. It just makes it difficult to make fine adjustments with the degrees.
Yeah, and like that style is really cool because they make like hub adapters that go in the front of the crank that you can just put that wheel. It has a nut that you can put on and use it on almost any of them. For this one, we have a bunch of basically little hats here that they all fit inside the wheel, but they're for different size damper bolts. So if we have a small block Chevy, big block Chevy, LS, whatever, we have these locators for each one, so that way the wheel stays centered when you're using it.
What it means is, as the hub is this.
So that's
the
the other
degree wheel
style.
goes on, and that screws down and grabs a hold of the degree wheel itself. And these have different snouts of different cranks, a whole bunch of different ones. Ours is a custom one, right? But it works for everything. And degree wheels, those are near and dear to our heart. So that's a good question.
Very important, and obviously, like you said, the bigger you can get it, the more accurate it is. We have
to a point. We don't want one that's dragging the ground.
You don't need one that's 30 inches in diameter. But if you're comparing it to a small one, which has its place, like a 10-inch one can be really handy. If you're trying to fit that into, like say you're trying to do a cam install in an engine bay, there's almost no way you're fitting that thing in there. So one of those like sheet metal 10-inch ones works really good in that application because most of the time we're building engines, here in the assembly area, we can go ahead and use our big one and get it set up with an indicator.
If you have an incremented balancer that has 360 degrees of marking on it, you could literally degree the cam with the damper or balancer on it. That's as long as you're degreeing cam. That's what we want to know where the intake center line is. If you don't have a cam card, sometimes cams don't come with cards, or you want to know what the cam is coming out. If you put a degree wheel on something, we're a huge fan of that. We are data nerds, so when you're doing that, we want the data of whatever's coming out of it and whatever's going in it, and exactly where we want to check exactly where it is, and if we want to adjust it to what we want it to be, that's why we degree stuff.
Yeah, and they're really handy. Also, another use, sometimes you see us do this, sometimes we don't. You can use them to set your timing pointer for true TDC. You can use just that if you have a fully incremented balancer, you can just use that and a deck gauge. But if you have a degree wheel, you can set that up as well, and it's a lot easier to get it dead on. And it's if we have something like that where it goes through the damper bolt, it's pretty easy to set that up on the face of the balancer and get it all dialed in. All right, let's see. Someone else asked about the degree wheel. Let's see. Here we go. You'll probably like this one. John Adam said, "Man, I can't wait when they bring a 351M from the junkyard."
Ooh, I like that. That's one of my favorites, right? And again, is it a powerhouse? No, that particular engine, we actually get a lot of requests for it because it's one of those oddballs that people want to know. It's just like any other engine. How do you make power with what you have? Some people are very, very, they're very emotionally attached to whatever engine because it was in their vehicle. Might have been their first one. Might be one that it was in their first vehicle they bought. They still have, 30, 40 years later. An engine is an engine is an engine. We can definitely do something with that and make it make power. The architecture of that is basically 351 Cleveland with a taller deck. They're very low RPM by design for what they were used for, but doesn't mean that they can't make power.
Yeah, I think it'd be super fun to do one, and that's just something that we just have to find a usable core, figure out a combo or an application for it, and then build it from there. But
because most of Cleveland parts work on it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's now, I mean, there's quite a bit available for that kind of stuff to make, I mean,
Large
really good
power.
power. Yeah, really cool stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right. If you have any more questions, make sure you put them in the comments. We're going to take a break on that so you get a list going with you guys. And let's talk about this project because, like I said, it's probably not super recognizable now, but this is actually the Junkyard 5.3 liter that we brought in last year.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this build was to show you guys what it actually takes to put a turbo on an LS. Obviously, we're not the first people to do this. This is a very popular thing, but there's kind of this mythology around it that you, for like $500, you can have an LS, have a turbo on it, and have a perfectly a running, driving, you know, take your horsepower number pick, 800, 900, whatever horsepower level engine for extremely cheap. And quite honestly, because of a lot of factors, that's just really not the case. So we wanted to show you guys everything that it took to actually have one of these that works.
It's a bit misleading, I know, because everybody's father's, grandpa's, uncle's former roommate or whatever, they've done, oh, I've got 1,000 horse, you know, at the tire LS vehicle, and it was for $800. Maybe, maybe not. This thing right here, this was a true junkyard engine that we actually literally, we didn't even take the junkyard tags off it when we ran it. We ran it with the displacement on demand. We literally took it, made sure it had oil in it. We put a standalone ignition system on it and then just pumped a turbo to it. And the turbo right here, this is the one that was on. This kit right here, nice manifold, this turbo right here. And we didn't even get that crazy with it. How much boost was on it? 6.5, 7.5 PSI?
It was like, I think it was like 7 PSI, 6.5 or 7 PSI, because quite honestly, when you're dealing with the junkyard engine, you have absolutely no idea what the inside of it looks like. Literally the only thing that we took off of this was the oil pan, so we could put a drain bung in it, and then we put it back on, and like he said, it still had the AFM lifters and cam and everything in it, which works if you don't hook it up, by the way. It works perfectly. And then, you know, stock intake and everything. So we just basically rigged up. This is the manifold and wastegate configuration is a setup you can get from Summit for like $1,200. It's a really nice kit. Comes with this heavy duty manifold, comes with the wastegates, and then the turbo is a 7875, which is basically one of the most affordable turbos that you can get. You know, that VS Racing one. So we basically got all that on there, scienced out, standalone EFI controller and everything, and it was not $500, but for a, you know, these are swap engines. That's what their, you know, primary use is now that they're not in production anymore. And you could, I mean, we made just over 500 horse, like super easy, and it will live at that power level forever. So, and anything on the street, 500 horse, I mean, that's pretty respectable. You could obviously make more. There's plenty of things you could turn it up and kind of, you know, start to diminish the life of it or whatever. But for bone stock componentry, 500 horse we thought was a great stopping point, a great goal. Yeah,
now this engine wasn't like a creek bed. It was a pull-out in a salvage yard. Now you can get something like this online, you know, look at the various places where you do auto parts shopping for junkyard stuff. But this one, fortunately, it was in really, really nice shape. It was a relatively low mile one. It was dirty, but that doesn't mean the insides. The insides were actually really clean, and it rocked the house for what it was.
Yeah.
And when you tear it apart, when we tear things apart, we measure a lot of things on the way out. I know it's very, very tempting to, when you're trying to modify an engine or you know you're not going to use something, you just rip the thing apart and because you're not going to use the stuff anyway. When you tear an engine apart, it will tell you a lot about how it was taken care of and what kind of condition it's in if you very carefully and methodically, when you tear it apart, you look at everything, and more importantly, you measure things.
Yeah, and like this one, so this version, so obviously some things have changed because we cleaned it up a lot. So the second round,
the paint.
This
is not an aerosol. It's kind of an aerosol overhaul.
It kind of is, but kind of not. So basically, this round is if you had your 500 horse completely stock LS, and then you saved up some money and you wanted to make more, right? So we are still using a lot of the stock componentry, but
majority of
we wanted to upgrade. Yeah, we wanted to upgrade the critical components, right? So what we have is an Icon forged piston, 3/810 bore, 4032 forged piston with 151530 ring pack. That gives us a little bit of support on the piston over that hyper-eutectic one that was in it from the factory. That means we can push it a little bit harder. It gives us a little more detonation protection and things like that. So that was obviously a major one. The LMGs, this later model ones, they come with the floating Gen 4 rod, so that's a very strong rod. not a lot you have to do to that from the factory. All we had to do was oversize the small end to fit our 945 pin, which is pretty easy, and then we put a set of ARP rod bolts in it because it is a crack cap rod, so we were able to put those in, measure everything, and make sure that our clearances were all good. We have a Summit 8701, which is a 218, 227 at 50 cam, very mild, with a set of actually stock pull-off. They have been run, but not very long. Regular like LS, non-AFM LS lifters with new trays, because you have to switch the trays and everything, and then a spring kit to go with that. And that is pretty much most of the power-inducing upgrades.
Right, the heads themselves, we didn't really touch them. We cleaned them. It goes, a cleaning can go a long way. When you clean things, again, you can see what kind of condition. These were in very nice condition. So we put an upgraded spring kit on it from Summit Racing for the camshaft, and basically lapped the valves. All the valves looked really great. Put some new seals in it, and away we went. So this is a $7.99 casting on this, which if these flow about as well as back in the day, like a nice Gen 1 Chevy aftermarket set.
Like an aluminum head for a Gen 1.
In the 240s to 250s in CFM, so very nice head. So that's why these engines make power. Consequently, we always talk about, people get hung up on bore size, and we're gonna touch on this one a little bit. The bore size on this engine right here, which makes some nice power, is literally within 16 thousandths of our 305. People think that
can't make any power because of the small bore size.
People always saying about a 305, where because it has the tiny bore, quote unquote, it won't make any power. Well, this one virtually has within 16 thousandths of that same bore size,
and a comparable head now at this point,
and a comparable cylinder head. So basically, they make within a very narrow margin the same power naturally aspirated with
as far
corresponding
as
induction
and horsepower per cube and stuff.
And horsepower per cube, absolutely.
That's why these are a great platform, because they basically can't come with all that great induction from the factory. They have very stout blocks. So like when we tore this thing apart, I mean, we used the stock main bearings and rod bearings because they looked that good. I mean, this thing was taking 500 pound-feet, 500 horse like a champ. So that kind of goes into our budget thing. Now, to make it a little more swap friendly, we splurged a little bit on that. So we have a Phytech swap oil pan, which, you're probably like, yeah, we could use the stock oil pan, which we totally could have. But right here in this, in front of the sump, this is way, way shallower than the factory one. So if you're going to put this in like an old school car with a big cross member, it's not a must maybe, but it'll save you a lot of cutting and grinding. So we did put a new pan on it, put a new bung in it for our turbo drain again, and then for the rest of it, let's say the stock covers and everything, they look really good because we did sandblast them and then we hit them with POR's. It's a detail paint that is it looks just like cast aluminum, so that's why all this stuff looks so good. Because it was grimy and dirty and all that kind of stuff. So we cleaned them up best we could and painted them. And then for induction, because the truck manifolds are super tall and they don't have a lot of room, we did splurge and get this really cool NitroPort LS intake from Phytech. So this comes with the whole kit and caboodle, loaded throttle body, fuel rails, injectors. It comes with the EFI system as well and everything. So this is a much lower profile intake. It's going to be much easier to fit under like the hood of a car or something like that. A little bit bigger throttle body, drive-by cable, excuse me. So that way, if you are putting an old car, it's very easy to swap in.
Yeah, you could hook like a string to it.
You could literally tie a string to it and run through the windshield if you wanted to. So we did do some stuff like that. That way, this thing has a little bit more of a swap-friendly vibe, and it's also going to look really cool. I mean, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but we want our engines to look good too.
No, it doesn't take any real work. It doesn't take a lot of money, but it takes some work to make them look good. All we did was clean it and paint it, and now it has a whole new look to it, and it looks great. And it kind of kills the junkyard vibe. Now it looks like some like a fresh rebuilt engine. Which essentially we did put a piston in it, and the nice part about that is now we have a good foundation. If we want to pour the coals to it and do some more parts swapping with it later.
We have a fresh hone too.
We have a fresh hone on it. Everything turned out really nice. But this engine, these things are the nice thing about these at 325 inches, what they start off of. They run and make as much power as like a nice hot rodded Gen 1 small block Chevy, and they do it from the factory. So, what do you got over there?
I was just checking. We got a bunch of questions. So let's let's jump back into some questions and comments.
What time? We have time for a couple more.
Yeah, they're stacking up. So let's do some of these here, and let's scroll back to the top here. Where are we at here? Kenneth McCombie asked, when are we going to get an Atlas build?
Like a 3i Atlas build? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, not an interstellar comet.
Oh, man.
That would be really cool. So he's talking about the 4200 series inline six engines, which is a really cool platform. It's kind of nichey, but we do nichey stuff. So that we do nichey inline sixes and stuff like that. So that is actually not off the table because they're relatively easy to find. The later ones use basically an LS trigger pattern. So for aftermarket controller, it's pretty easy. But stuff like that, I think that's totally within the realm of doing. Let's see. Somebody asked about brackets, but I don't know what engine, so we're going to scoop over that one. Sorry. Have we seen the videos about the Chevy 4-cylinder puts out 300 horse? If I believe you're talking about the half LS engine that K-Tech did, which is, yes, very cool. That's an extremely cool piece of engineering. Let's see.
Destroyer 2639.
There you go, yeah.
Have you ever worked on an AMC vehicle? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We've done Jeep engines in here. We did a Javelin a couple of 3 years ago that had a really sweet 304 that we put 401 heads on and ran really nice.
Made really good power, yeah. 5T Outdoors asked, can you explain what the +3 means on some LS cams?
Sure.
Yeah, so if you look at either the listing for the cam, or once you get the cam card, it will have it written somewhere else usually, or if you get a cam ground, you can put this in there as well. So what a lot of manufacturers will do is they will advance the camshaft based off where they think it will need to be once you get it in the application, because not everybody's putting adjustable timing sets on. Like, we will always usually put an adjustable timing set on if we're putting a cam in, so we can adjust where we want the cam to be. But usually it will be listed as like the LSA number, and then we'll have a +3, +2, +4, whatever. That is the amount of advance that is ground into the cam from the manufacturer. So if you were going to put the cam straight up,
line up the dots.
Yeah,
not straight up.
No, if you were going to put the cam straight up, then the intake center line would match the LSA. So if you put the intake center line at 112 and your LSA was 112, that would be straight up. So if it has advanced ground in, then if you put the dot to dot, theoretically it should land 3 degrees advance, 4 degrees advance, whatever that number is.
It's made so if you have stack tolerances or you're not degreeing it, you're going to be in that realm when you do it. Makes it a little bit more user friendly. We are going to check everyone every time just because that's the way we like to do things. But there's no sense in worrying about it if it goes in dot to dot like that. You're going to be in really close to where the cam is advertised to be. So.
Here's another one. John Hobbs, 4133. What is a neutral harmonic balancer? It used to be an internally and externally balance. I think he's asking if it's supposed to be used on an internally externally balanced crankshaft. If it is a neutral harmonic damper or balancer, that would be on an internally balanced engine. That means it has a neutral balance, which means it doesn't have an offset like you would find on an external.
If you picture it, it's like a neutral flywheel or a zero balance flywheel. It's like balancing a tire. It is balanced in a single plane, so its amount of rotation, it is balanced in that single plane, so it has no effect on what it's hooked to. So all it does is it adds mass. It doesn't add any other imbalance property like if you're doing an external balance. So.
Okay, let's see. Oh, here's a good one. How about building a small block Chevy 302 similar to the DZ, but with a 350 block and a 283 crankshaft? That is one I know we've gotten a lot with our 305, 302 shootout. So, I mean, it's not out of the question. What we if you watch the last version of the shootout, what we kind of said was like, our 305 is kind of like the budget DZ 302 because
you're gonna make some people mad on that one.
Well, it's the truth. I mean, if you look at like power, it doesn't turn as much RPM, but it makes a lot more torque. It basically carries the same amount of power
with a way smaller cam.
Yep.
If you think about it, just real quick, a DZ 302, they have a big solid flat tappet cam that's in the 250 range for duration, and they make a lot of power. They're 12-to-1 from the factory. Our hydraulic roller 11-to-1 305 basically makes more torque and more horsepower than a DZ 302 Camaro. Those engines, they make lots of power, but they carry power a long way out, but you got to turn them to the moon to make them make power. There's nothing wrong with that because that's a cool engine. It's one of my favorite engines of all time. So, but there's no, for modern stuff and how like hydraulic cams are nowadays and how good the induction is, everything that's available almost in the aftermarket flows better than a set of the old camel hump heads. So yeah, there's so much more stuff that from a nostalgia perspective could we do. I love those engines. So yeah, we don't, like, nothing's off the table. So.
All right, let's see. Here's a great one about, let's see, here it is. How easy to put an engine in your older truck, like an International Lodestar, need a replacement. That's if you're replacing the engine that came out of it, like doing a remanufactured engine, it's the same engine. It's not super hard. It's, obviously you have to pull the whole engine out, but if you start swapping stuff, that's usually very case specific, so that'd be something you have to do research on, forums, things like that, or you might just be the first one.
Hey, Frankie, what was your major at UNOH? Noya's Boys Auto wanted to know.
It was, automotive and high performance technology, and then I was also on the UNOH motorsports team while I was there. I built engines for the motorsports team, and I also got my CDL while I was there, which is really handy because you could do it really quick and you get to use all their equipment to do it.
I still have a CDL. In case I get fired, I can drive a beer truck.
Let's see.
Anyways.
Most of the other ones I think we've covered.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of these. All
yeah.
right. What time we do? Oh my goodness.
Oh, I think we're doing pretty good.
We're doing pretty good here.
We should probably wrap it up. I know everybody's trying to eat lunch and everything like that.
In the industry, it's called land the plane. So we're going to land the plane here. Man, we really appreciate all the questions, and you're going to see this. We're going to be running this relatively soon as far as our timeline. When you see it, it's going to be a little bit delayed.
Yeah.
But
if you follow us on social media, PowerNation and Engine Power, you can see updates about it basically every day. So you can check it out. Make sure you follow both, subscribe to both YouTube channels and things like that, because we post daily updates about whatever we're working on. And right now it's this. So if you follow along, you can see all that stuff on social media, and we'll try to keep you guys up to date.
And make sure you check out Dirt and Trails and Detroit Muscle, because they got some stuff out. Check them out. They do a great job as well. So next time we'll see you, and go build something cool.